Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures where humanity always rises. The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Hundreds of beings from different worlds sat in a wide circle, watching a single symbol float in the air. It was made of light, old and fading, yet everyone feared it. The symbol was the first law of the galaxy. It had existed longer than most stars. The law had only one sentence: never challenge humanity. No one remembered who wrote it. No one remembered when it was written. But everyone knew what happened to those who ignored it. The council hall was built inside a dead moon. Its walls were carved with the history of the galaxy. Wars, empires, extinct species. Many of those carvings ended at the same place. A simple mark. A quiet end. Those stories all shared one thing. They involved humans. Yet humans were not shown as monsters. They were not shown as gods. They were shown as shadows. Always calm. Always watching. At the edge of the hall, a young officer stood and stared at the glowing law. His species was new to the council. His people had conquered 3 systems in less than 10 cycles. They believed in strength. They believed fear ruled the stars. The officer let out a short laugh. It echoed too loudly in the silent chamber. Several elders turned toward him at once. A law based on stories, the officer said. Humans are weak. They hide on one small planet. They have no great fleets. No shining empire. Why should the galaxy fear them? His voice was confident. Too confident. Some council members lowered their eyes. Others showed signs of fear. One ancient being, its body held together by machines older than modern space travel, slowly rose. We feared them because they asked for nothing, the elder said. No tribute. No land. No control. Humans stayed silent while the galaxy burned itself again and again. The officer crossed his arms. Silence, he believed, was weakness. He had seen silent worlds fall before. The elder continued. When the last great war spread across 1,000 systems, humans did not choose sides. They did not send fleets. They did not speak. But when the war reached their space, it ended. The chamber lights dimmed as old records activated. Broken ships drifted across holographic space. Entire armadas frozen in place. Not destroyed. Just stopped. The officer leaned closer, curious now. Tricks, he said. Old technology. The elder shook its head slowly. No weapons were detected. No energy spikes. No known force. The war simply ended. The fleets that crossed into human space never moved again. The officer felt a small chill but hid it well. Another council member spoke, its voice trembling. Those fleets are still there. Silent. Untouched. Humans never claimed victory. They never warned us. They simply returned to their world and closed their borders. The symbol of the law glowed brighter for a moment, as if listening. The officer straightened. Fear turned into anger inside him. Then the galaxy has lived in fear for nothing, he said. If humans are so powerful, why do they hide? Why do they not rule? His words stirred the chamber. Some wondered the same thing but never dared to ask. The ancient elder answered softly. Because humans do not want to rule. And that is why the law exists. The officer laughed again, louder this time. My people do not fear quiet worlds, he said. I will prove this law is a lie. Gasps filled the hall. The elder's lights dimmed. If you break the law, it warned, the galaxy will remember your name forever. The council tried to stop him. Votes were cast. Warnings were sent. But the officer had already made his choice. His species followed strength, and he believed strength came from action. Within hours, his fleet was prepared. Dozens of warships formed a sharp line in space. Their target was clear. A small blue planet orbiting an ordinary star. As the fleet moved, the law's symbol faded slightly, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Far away on Earth, humans noticed the ships. There were no screams. No panic. No urgent calls for help. Human leaders gathered in quiet rooms. Old systems began to wake. Systems the galaxy did not know existed. The fleet commander stood on his bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the screen. "This ends today," he said. "The galaxy will learn that humans are nothing special." Behind him, sensors flickered for a moment, then returned to normal. No alarms sounded. No warnings appeared. Back in the council chamber, the ancient elder closed its eyes. "Someone has forgotten why the law was written," it whispered. As the first alien ship crossed into human space, the stars around it seemed to grow darker. Not hostile. Not angry. Just silent. And in that silence, the oldest law in the galaxy prepared to be remembered once again. The alien fleet moved through space with perfect order. Long black ships cut through the stars like blades. At their center stood the flagship, larger than the rest, heavy with weapons meant to crush entire worlds. The commander watched Earth from the main screen. It looked small, fragile, blue and green, wrapped in thin clouds. To him, it did not look like the home of a feared species. It looked like a prize waiting to be taken. Reports came in one by one. No planetary shields detected. No active weapon platforms in orbit. No battle formations. Earth remained silent. The commander felt pleased. "You see," he told his officers, "the Council lives in old fear. Humans are unprepared." His crew agreed. They had expected resistance. They found none. Scout ships moved closer to the planet. They scanned cities, oceans, and mountains. Humans were everywhere, living normal lives. They walked. They worked. They looked up at the sky, curious but calm. There was no sign of panic. No mass evacuation. No military movement that the scouts could see. The silence felt strange, but the commander ignored it. "Send a demand," he ordered. A message was transmitted to Earth. It was short and direct. "Surrender your world. Submit to our rule. Failure will result in destruction." The commander waited for fear. He waited for desperate replies. Minutes passed. Then a response arrived. The message was simple. No threats. No anger. Just words. "You are entering protected space. Turn back now. This is your only warning." The bridge fell quiet. Some officers shifted uneasily. The commander stared at the message, then laughed. "That is it," he said. "No fleet. No weapons. Just words." He ordered the message dismissed. Behind the scenes, human leaders met across the planet. They did not argue. They did not shout. Old protocols were activated. Files sealed for centuries were opened again. Systems buried deep beneath Earth's surface began to hum softly. These systems were not built for conquest. They were built to end wars quickly. Back on the flagship, the commander grew impatient. "Begin forward movement," he ordered. The fleet advanced closer to Earth's orbit. As they crossed an invisible line in space, several sensors flickered. Navigation readings showed minor errors. Time delays appeared in communication signals. Engineers reported the issues as small and fixable. The commander ignored them. He had seen worse. "Prepare warning fire," he said. The order was meant to scare, not destroy. A single ship fired a low-powered energy burst into empty space near Earth's moon. The light flashed bright against the darkness. Still, Earth did not respond. On the planet below, humans watched the light in the sky. News spread quickly, but there was no mass fear. Emergency systems stayed quiet. Military bases did not scramble fleets. Instead, a final message was sent from Earth. It was calm, almost gentle. "Do not fire again. Leave now." The commander felt insulted. His pride burned hotter than caution. "They still think we will leave," he said. "They do not understand power." He ordered a second shot, closer this time. As the weapon charged, alarms suddenly sounded. Officers shouted reports. Power levels dropped for no clear reason. Weapon systems hesitated, then resumed. For a brief moment, the commander felt uncertainty. He pushed it away. "Fire," he commanded. The weapon discharged. The energy beam vanished mid-flight, as if swallowed by space itself. The bridge fell silent. Scanners showed nothing. No impact. No explosion. Engineers ran diagnostics. All systems showed normal. The commander's jaw tightened. "Again," he ordered. Before the command could be carried out, one of the scout ships went dark. Not destroyed. Not damaged. It simply stopped transmitting. Its signal vanished as if it had never existed. Fear crept into the bridge. Officers whispered. The commander felt eyes on him. He forced his voice to remain steady. "It is a malfunction," he said. "Nothing more." But even as he spoke, another ship slowed. Its engines powered down without command. Then another. Far away, the Galactic Council watched the feeds in horror. The ancient elder closed its eyes. "The warning was given," it said softly. "Humans always warn once." Around Earth, space seemed to grow heavier, darker. The fleet was no longer advancing. It was being held. The commander clenched his fists. His fleet, his symbol of strength, was losing control without a single visible attack. He opened a channel to Earth, anger filling his voice. "What have you done?" he demanded. The reply came instantly. "We asked you to leave." As the commander stared at the screen, a realization struck him. Humans were not weak. They were patient. And patience, he now understood too late, was far more dangerous than rage. Around his fleet, the stars watched in silence as the oldest law of the galaxy began to take shape once more. The alien fleet hung in space like a trapped beast. Engines glowed but did not move the ships forward. Control panels flickered with warnings that made no sense. The commander stood frozen on the bridge, staring at the stars outside the screen. He had ordered full power. He had ordered advance. Yet nothing obeyed him. His fleet, built to conquer, now waited in silence. Officers worked fast, their voices tight with fear. They checked engines. They checked power cores. They checked navigation systems again and again. Every system reported normal. There was no enemy fire. No visible field. No sign of attack. It was as if the fleet had simply lost the right to move. The commander forced himself to breathe slowly. Panic was weakness. "Run a full scan of human space," he ordered. "Find the weapon." Long-range sensors spread outward. They found nothing. No fleets hiding. No massive energy build-up. Earth remained calm below, its lights glowing softly on the night side of the planet. On Earth, human leaders watched the same silence. In underground rooms and orbiting stations, men and women stood before old screens. No one spoke loudly. No one celebrated. Ancient systems, designed long before the current age, were fully awake now. They did not hum with power. They whispered with control. One human officer looked at a timer counting down. "They were warned," she said quietly. No one argued. Humanity had learned long ago that begging only invited more violence. They did not beg. They did not threaten. They simply prepared to end the danger. Back on the flagship, the commander opened a channel to the council. His pride burned, but fear burned deeper. "Something is wrong," he said. "Human space is interfering with our systems." The council responded with silence. Then the ancient elder appeared on the screen. Its voice was calm, almost sad. "You crossed the line," it said. "Now you must listen." The commander clenched his jaw. "Tell me how they are doing this," he demanded. The elder shook its head. "We do not know. We only know the result. Humans stop wars without fighting them." The transmission ended. The commander turned back to his crew. "Prepare all weapons," he ordered. "If we cannot move, we will at least strike." Weapon systems powered up slowly. Targeting locked on Earth's orbit. The commander raised his hand to give the fire command. Before he could speak, every weapon on the bridge shut down at once. Lights dimmed. Consoles went dark. The only thing still active was life support. The bridge was filled with stunned silence. An officer whispered, "They turned us off." The commander felt cold. He had faced enemies before. He had seen rage. He had seen fear. This was different. This was control. Absolute and effortless. He opened another channel to Earth, his voice sharp. "If you can hear me," he said, "speak now." The reply came instantly. A human face appeared on the screen. The man looked ordinary. No armor. No symbols of power. Just calm eyes. "We hear you," the human said. His voice was steady. "You are still alive because we choose it." The commander felt anger rise again. "Then fight us," he said. "End this." The human shook his head slowly. "We are not here to fight," he said. "We are here to stop you." The commander laughed bitterly. "By trapping us?" he asked. "By disabling us?" The human did not react. "Yes," he said. "Because destruction teaches nothing. Survival teaches everything." Around the fleet, more ships went quiet. Crews reported strange effects. Time felt slow in some areas, heavy in others. Space itself seemed to press down on the hulls. Panic spread through the ranks. The commander watched his empire's strength fade without a single shot fired. On Earth, the timer reached 0. A human engineer nodded once. Across human space, hidden systems adjusted reality by small amounts. Not enough to break it, just enough to control it. The technology was not new. It was simply never shown. The commander fell into his chair. "What do you want?" he asked the human on the screen. The human answered without hesitation. "We want you to leave," he said. "And we want you to remember why." The commander's voice cracked. "And if we refuse?" The human's eyes hardened, just slightly. "Then you will stay exactly where you are," he said. "Forever." Far away, the Galactic Council watched as the truth became clear. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not threaten. Humanity waited, warned once, and then acted with calm certainty. The oldest law of the galaxy was not born from fear. It was born from experience. As the commander stared at the silent stars, he understood something too late. Humans were peaceful not because they were weak, but because they were capable of ending everything. And that was when the galaxy truly began to watch. The alien fleet remained frozen, suspended in a silence that felt unnatural. Engines burned fuel without motion. Thrusters responded to commands but produced no change. The commander stood on the bridge, listening to reports that all sounded the same. Everything worked. Nothing moved. His hands trembled as he clenched them behind his back. Crew members whispered now. Fear spread faster than any signal. Some stared at the stars as if expecting them to attack. Others stared at their screens, hoping to find a reason, a fault, something they could fix. There was nothing. The fleet was perfect. The prison was perfect too. The commander opened a private channel to Earth again. The human face appeared at once. "Come." Unarmed. "Watching." "You are still here," the commander said. "You said we could leave." The human nodded slowly. "You can," he replied. "You have not chosen to." Anger flared. "This is not a choice," the commander snapped. "You are forcing us." The human did not argue. "We warned you," he said. "You crossed the line after that." The screen went dark. Without warning, one of the outer ships sent a distress call. Its crew reported a sudden loss of gravity. Moments later, the call cut off. The ship did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply drifted, lights fading one by one, like a dying star. Panic erupted across the fleet. Officers shouted. Engineers ran diagnostics again. Medical teams prepared for emergencies that had no cause. The commander felt his authority slipping. "Hold formation," he ordered. "Do not panic." His voice sounded hollow even to himself. Then it happened again. Another ship lost gravity. Then another. Each time, the effect was clean and controlled. No screams carried through space. No debris scattered. Just silence. The fleet was being dismantled without violence. On Earth, human monitors tracked every change. They watched life signs carefully. Every crew member was alive. That mattered. Humanity's response was precise. It removed danger without creating graves. This was not mercy. It was policy. Deep beneath Earth's surface, A system older than any current nation adjusted its output. It was designed after humanity's first contact wars. Wars that taught painful lessons. The system did not hate. It balanced. Back on the flagship, the commander's second-in-command stepped forward. "We should withdraw," she said quietly. "They control space itself." The commander turned sharply. "We do not retreat," he replied. "We dominate." His words sounded weak against the growing silence outside. Sensors began to fail in patterns that made no sense. Time delays increased between ships. Some crews reported that seconds felt like minutes. Others felt nothing at all. Space behaved differently around each vessel, as if testing them. The commander opened a channel to the council once more. This time, the entire chamber appeared. The ancient elder spoke. "This is the first shock," it said. "Humans always start small. They show control before consequence." The commander shouted back. "Call them off." The elder shook its head. "Only you can do that." The commander cut the feed. He looked at Earth again. The planet still looked peaceful. Blue oceans. White clouds. No signs of war. That frightened him more than any weapon. A sudden alarm rang out on the bridge. One of the largest warships had vanished from sensors. Not disabled. Not drifting. Gone. Its space folded inward for a brief second, then returned to normal. No wreckage. No energy spike. The crew stared in horror. "That ship carried 10,000 lives," an officer whispered. The commander felt cold. "Are they dead?" he asked. Sensors searched. Life signs appeared moments later, far away. The ship had been moved. Relocated outside human space, powerless but intact. The message was clear. Humans could remove ships from reality and return them at will. They were not destroying the fleet. They were proving a point. The human face appeared again on the main screen without request. "This is the shock," he said calmly. "It is meant to wake you." The commander swallowed. "You could end us," he said. The human nodded. "Yes." "Then why don't you?" the commander asked. The human paused. "Because if we do," he said, "the galaxy will fear us forever. We prefer memory over fear." Across the fleet, systems stabilized into a terrible stillness. No more ships failed. No more warnings came. The commander realized this was intentional. The demonstration was complete. Far away, across the stars, watchers understood the truth at last. Humanity did not strike in anger. Humanity struck in lessons. And as the commander stared at Earth, knowing his next choice would decide everything, the first shock settled deep into the soul of the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer silent. Voices rose in fear and regret as the feeds from human space continued to play. Council members watched the frozen fleet, the displaced ships, the controlled precision of every human action. Many had known this moment would come one day. They had only hoped it would not come so soon. The ancient elder stood again, its worn body glowing faintly as it accessed sealed archives. "The time has come," it said, "to remember why the law was written." At its command, symbols across the chamber shifted. Walls that once showed triumph now showed loss. Entire civilizations faded into darkness. Long before the current age, before the Council existed, the galaxy was ruled by endless war. Species rose and fell in violent cycles. Empires expanded until they collapsed under their own cruelty. In that age, humans were young and unnoticed. They explored quietly. They observed. They learned. When humanity first reached the stars, they were attacked. Not once, but many times. Their colonies were burned. Their ships destroyed. Billions died. The galaxy expected humans to answer with rage. They did not. They retreated inward. They studied their enemy. They studied war itself. The elder's voice grew heavier. Humans learned something no other species did, it said. They learned that war never ends by force alone. While others built larger weapons, humans built understanding. They mapped fear. They mapped aggression. They mapped space itself. The records shifted again. A massive war filled the chamber's view. Thousands of fleets clashed across hundreds of systems. The war threatened to tear the galaxy apart. Then humans appeared. Not as conquerors. Not as heroes. As silencers. Human ships entered the war zone without warning. They did not fire. They did not speak. One by one, fleets stopped moving. Weapons shut down. Space bent slightly, just enough. The war ended in a single cycle. Not a victory. A conclusion. The council members watched in horror and awe. That was the first time, the elder said, the galaxy understood fear without hatred. Humans withdrew after that. They claimed no territory. They demanded nothing. They returned to their world and sealed their borders. That was when the law was written. Never challenge humanity. Not as a threat. As a reminder. Humanity would not rule the galaxy. But if forced, they would end conflict entirely. Back near Earth, the alien commander stood on his bridge, unaware of the full history being revealed. He watched his fleet remain trapped in calm silence. His strength, once unquestioned, now felt small. Officers avoided his gaze. A final transmission from Earth arrived. It was not a threat. It was history. Images filled the screen. Ancient wars. Frozen fleets. Silent endings. The human voice spoke softly. "We do not enjoy this," it said. "But we will not allow war to grow again." The commander felt his chest tighten. "You could have ruled," he said. "Why didn't you?" The human answered without pride. "Because ruling creates resistance," he said. "Ending violence creates peace." Around the fleet, space slowly released its hold on certain systems. Power returned in small amounts. Life support strengthened. It was not freedom. It was trust, offered carefully. On the council, fear turned into understanding. The law was not superstition. It was survival. Species that challenged humanity did not fall to weapons. They fell to inevitability. The ancient elder lowered itself back into place. "The truth is known again," it said. "And now the test begins." All eyes returned to the frozen fleet. The commander realized the choice before him was no longer about victory. It was about legacy. He could retreat and become a warning, or resist and become an example. As Earth remained calm and the galaxy watched, the oldest law glowed brighter than it had in centuries. The truth behind it was clear at last. Humanity was not feared because it sought power. Humanity was feared because it could end everything and chose not to. The silence around the alien fleet changed. It was no longer heavy. It was waiting. Systems across the ship stabilized into a narrow band of control, enough to keep crews alive and alert, not enough to escape. The commander stood alone at the center of the bridge, staring at Earth. He understood now that the calm planet was not weak. It was patient. A new transmission arrived from Earth. It was not sudden. It did not interrupt systems or force attention. It simply appeared, waiting to be opened. The commander hesitated, then nodded. The human envoy appeared again. The same calm face. The same steady eyes. "This is our final message," the human said. "It is polite because it must be. You will withdraw your fleet. You will return to your space. You will never test this boundary again." There was no threat in the tone. That was what made it terrifying. The commander straightened. "You call this polite," he said. "You hold us trapped. You humiliate us." The human shook his head. "We do not seek your shame," he replied. "We seek your absence." Around the fleet, subtle changes began. Space bent in soft waves, almost invisible. Distances stretched. Signals took longer to travel. Time itself felt uneven. Human systems were not increasing power. They were narrowing possibility. On Earth, old safeguards watched for instability. Humans did not push further than needed. The goal was not punishment. The goal was retreat. The systems adjusted reality like a careful hand turning a dial. The commander opened a channel to his officers. Faces filled the screen. Fear was no longer hidden. "We can still fight," one said. "If we overload the cores, we may break free." The commander saw the cost at once. Thousands would die, and even that might fail. He remembered the council elder's words. Humans always warn once. This was the second moment. Not a warning. A choice. The human envoy continued. If you leave now, he said, your ships will be restored. Your crews will return home. Your people will live with memory, not loss. The commander felt his pride fracture. Memory would follow him forever. What if I refuse? The commander asked. The human did not pause. Then nothing changes, he said. You will remain here, frozen between decisions, long enough for the galaxy to learn. Across the stars, watchers leaned closer to their screens. Empires powered down fleets. Borders closed quietly. The polite message from Earth echoed farther than any weapon. The commander turned to the view of his fleet. Once, it had been a symbol of unstoppable force. Now it was a lesson suspended in space. He thought of his people, of stories yet to be told. He thought of his name. Human systems shifted again. One ship at the edge of the formation regained control for a brief moment. Its engines flickered to life. Then they shut down smoothly. A demonstration. Controlled. Reversible. This is mercy, the human said softly. Do not mistake it for weakness. The commander closed his eyes. When he opened them, the decision had formed. He opened all channels. His voice carried across the fleet. Stand down, he ordered. Prepare for withdrawal. Some officers looked shocked. Others looked relieved. The human envoy nodded once. Space relaxed slightly. Power flowed back into navigation systems. Paths opened like doors unlocked one at a time. The fleet felt the grip loosen. But the choice was not complete. The human raised one finger. One condition remains, he said. You will carry this message back with you. You will tell the truth. The commander swallowed. What truth? He asked. The human's eyes hardened just a fraction. That we asked you to leave, he said. And that you were able to. Across human space, the systems held steady. They did not chase. They did not threaten. They waited. The commander gave the final order. Engines warmed under careful limits. Ships aligned. The fleet began to turn away from Earth. As the first ship crossed the boundary, space released it fully. Systems returned to normal. Control was complete. The message was delivered. Far away, the Galactic Council exhaled as one. The ancient elder bowed its head. The polite threat has been heard, it said. The commander watched Earth shrink on the screen. He felt no relief, only understanding. The galaxy had mistaken kindness for weakness. It would not make that mistake again. And as the fleet withdrew under silent watch, the law proved itself once more, not through force, but through calm certainty. The alien fleet began its slow withdrawal, turning away from Earth under careful control. Engines warmed, navigation systems aligned, and paths through space reopened like doors unlocked one by one. Yet the fleet did not feel free. Every ship sensed the invisible presence that still watched, measured, and waited. The commander stood in silence as Earth grew smaller on the main screen. Then the withdrawal stopped. Not suddenly. Not violently. The fleet simply reached a point where motion no longer continued. Engines responded. Commands were accepted. But distance did not change. The commander's breath caught in his chest. Officers exchanged worried looks. We were cleared to leave, one said. All systems say we are moving. The human envoy appeared again without request. You are, he said calmly. This is the final step. The commander felt anger rise, sharp and helpless. You said we could go, he said. We are obeying. The human nodded. You are, he replied. But obedience alone is not understanding. Across the fleet, a low vibration passed through every hull. Not damaging. Not painful. Just enough to be noticed. Crews held onto their stations as instruments showed readings beyond known scales. Space itself seemed to pause. This will not destroy you, the human said. It will show you. Far from Earth, hidden systems adjusted with perfect care. Humanity did not strike in fury. They did not unleash overwhelming force. They applied exactly what was needed, no more. In a single moment, half the fleet lost all external power. Weapons shut down. Engines went dark. Shields faded. Life support remained. The ships drifted, silent and harmless. There was no explosion, no flash, no sound, just sudden helplessness. On the flagship, alarms rang, then softened into warnings. Officers shouted reports. Weapons offline. Engines unresponsive. No damage detected. The commander stared at the data in disbelief. His strongest ships had been rendered useless without a scratch. "This is impossible," he whispered. The human envoy's voice remained steady. "This is restraint," he said. Panic surged through the fleet. Crews realized they were not under attack. They were under control. A truth far more terrifying. One officer fell to their knees. "They could end us," they said. "Why haven't they?" The commander did not answer. He already knew. On Earth, human leaders watched carefully. Systems held the disabled ships in perfect balance. No drift toward stars. No decay. No loss of life. The strike was clean, reversible, and precise. "This is the line," the human envoy continued. "Crossing it brings consequence. Stopping before it brings mercy." The commander opened a channel to the remaining active ships. His voice carried weight now, stripped of pride. "Do not resist," he said. "Observe." The envoy nodded slightly. Another adjustment followed. The disabled ships began to move. Slowly, gently. They were guided along invisible paths, placed far from Earth space. When they arrived, systems restarted. Engines came back online. Crews gasped as control returned to their hands. The message was clear. Humans could turn power off and on like a switch. Across the galaxy, observers froze in disbelief. This was not domination. This was demonstration. A single, clean strike that harmed no one and taught everything. The commander felt something break inside him. Not fear. Understanding. He addressed the human envoy again. "You did this to teach us," he said. The human nodded. "Yes," he replied. "So you never make us do it again." The commander bowed his head. "Then the lesson is learned." The envoy studied him for a long moment. "It is not finished," he said. "The galaxy must learn too." As if on cue, the feeds opened across known space. Every council chamber. Every imperial court. Every military command center. They all saw the same image. Half a fleet disabled without damage. Without anger. Without effort. Silence followed. Human systems withdrew their hold. Space relaxed. The remaining fleet regained full motion. Paths opened fully now. No resistance remained. The commander gave the order to leave. This time, the fleet moved freely. As the ships accelerated away, the disabled vessels followed, whole and alive. The human envoy delivered his final words. "Remember this moment," he said. "We do not fight to win. We fight to end the need for fighting." The screen went dark. The fleet vanished into deep space, carrying a lesson heavier than any weapon. Humanity had struck once, cleanly, without rage. And the galaxy understood at last why the oldest law had never needed enforcement before. Power without anger was the most frightening force of all. The alien fleet finally moved away from Earth, but the commander did not feel relief. The lesson they had witnessed was heavier than any weapon. The ships, once symbols of strength, were now reminders of restraint and intelligence beyond understanding. He stared at the blue planet, still calm, still quiet, as if nothing had happened. Yet everything had changed. The human envoy appeared on the main screen once more. His face was calm. His eyes steady. "You have seen our power," he said. "But that is not why we act as we do." The commander's jaw tightened. "Then why?" he asked. "Because we choose life over war," the human replied. "Our law is simple. We do not seek power. We do not conquer. We defend, carefully, and only when needed." Around the fleet, Crews tried to understand. The effects on the ships, the sudden loss of control, the careful restoration of engines and weapons, it was overwhelming. The lesson was complete, but understanding it was another matter. "Why spare us?" the commander asked, his voice low. "Why not destroy?" The human's eyes hardened slightly. "Because destruction ends nothing," he said. "Ending a threat without creating a corpse teaches the galaxy a lesson without fear. That is the law we live by. That is why humans are left alone." In the council chambers across known space, species whispered to each other. Ancient wars, long-forgotten conflicts, histories of greed and violence, they all led to this understanding. Humans were not gods. They were not rulers. They were quiet forces of balance. And that made them the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Back on the flagship, the commander reflected on the events. His strongest ships had been rendered powerless without damage. His crews had been tested without pain. His pride had been measured without insult. And now he had a choice. Leave and live with memory, or resist and become an example. The human envoy continued. "We do not strike out of rage," he said. "We strike to remind. We strike to end the need for future violence. That is why the law exists. Never challenge humanity." Sensors around the fleet picked up subtle changes. Space itself seemed to stabilize, gently returning control to the alien ships. Life support strengthened. Weapons systems reactivated carefully. The fleet was free, but only after it had learned. The commander understood then. Humans had been patient. They had studied history, watched countless wars, and learned the patterns of aggression. They had built systems that did not just defend, they educated. They had acted without emotion, without hatred, without pride. That was why they were feared and respected. That was why no species dared to cross the boundary again. The human envoy leaned forward slightly. "This is our rule," he said. "We do not interfere unless necessary. We do not attack unless provoked. We do not conquer. And that is why we are left alone." The commander felt a weight settle over him. Pride and ambition had been replaced by understanding and humility. He realized the galaxy had misunderstood humans for centuries. They had assumed strength came from weapons, from fleets, from empires. Humans had shown that strength came from control, patience, and knowledge. Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. Species that once dreamed of conquest now whispered warnings to each other. They shared stories of the fleet that could not move, the ships that disappeared and returned intact, the calm human voices that ended fear without violence. The legend of Earth grew, not as a threat, but as a reminder of what power without rage truly meant. The commander gave the final order. "Set course for home," he said. The fleet responded. Ships accelerated, leaving the calm blue planet behind. They carried crews alive, systems intact, and a new understanding that would shape their species for generations. The human envoy watched from Earth one last time. "Remember this moment," he said quietly. "We do not ask for tribute. We do not seek rulers. We only ask for respect of the law." As the fleet disappeared into the depths of space, the law glowed faintly above the planet. Never challenge humanity. Simple. Clear. Absolute. The galaxy had learned the lesson it had once ignored, and humanity returned to silence, watching, waiting, and guarding the stars without raising a weapon again. The news of the fleet's encounter with Earth spread like a ripple across the galaxy. Messages from one system to another carried stories of ships immobilized, engines halted, weapons powerless, and the calm, unwavering human voice that ended panic without violence. Empires and councils paused their routines, sending envoys to their fleets to confirm what they could hardly believe. Across hundreds of worlds, species stopped to watch the reports, silence falling in every chamber. The Galactic Council convened again, but this time with a different tone. The ancient elder spoke first. "The galaxy has witnessed humanity as it has always been. Calm, patient, just." Council members listened as images of the disabled fleet were projected before them. There was no exaggeration. The data was accurate. The once mighty alien fleet, proud and confident, had been stopped by a species that had not fired a single weapon in anger. Leaders whispered among themselves. For decades, they had assumed humans were primitive, small, and weak. For decades, they had debated whether to expand, attack, or ignore them. Now the truth was unavoidable. Humans were not conquerors. They were guardians of life, capable of ending conflicts without violence, and their calm had proven far stronger than the combined fleets of any empire. The commander of the fleet that had challenged Earth returned home in silence. His people were alive, their ships intact, but every officer and crew member carried a new understanding. Pride had been tempered by the experience. They had seen the truth firsthand. Humans did not need weapons to command respect. Their presence alone reshaped space, bending reality carefully without harm. Across the stars, other empires took note. Borders were reconsidered. Fleets were downsized. Diplomats sent messages to neighboring systems that hinted at the danger of underestimating humanity. The legend of Earth, once dismissed as myth, became a cautionary tale. In some sectors, species spoke of the law aloud for the first time. "Never challenge humanity," they repeated. The phrase carried weight. It was no longer a vague warning, it was a universal truth. Children were taught it in schools. Commanders taught it to cadets. Every species that had ever considered expansion into human space paused, remembering the fleet that could not move and the calm, polite message that had stopped them. Back on Earth, humans continued their daily lives. They did not celebrate. They did not parade their strength. Observers across the galaxy knew that the greatest power had returned to silence. Systems continued to operate smoothly, maintaining balance, watching over life. Humans did not seek attention. They only acted when necessary, leaving lessons for those who tried to challenge them. The commander sat alone on the bridge of his flagship, staring at empty space where Earth had been. The lesson had been received, but it left him restless. He reflected on the meaning of strength. His species had believed in aggression, in dominance, in pride. They had measured power by fleets, weapons, and destruction. Humanity had redefined strength for the galaxy. Across the council, the elder addressed all members. "You have seen the truth," it said. "Humans do not conquer. They do not interfere without reason. They have patience beyond comprehension and restraint beyond imagination. The galaxy will respect them because we must, not because we fear them, but because we understand the cost of ignoring them." Species across the galaxy adjusted their policies. Trade routes were reconsidered. Alliances shifted. New rules were drafted quietly. None dared to act against humans, not for fear of attack, but for fear of being proven wrong. Every military calculation now accounted for the quiet patience of Earth. Every empire that had once dreamed of conquest now paused to consider diplomacy first. Even the families of the alien fleet's crew discussed the events quietly at home. Stories of the encounter circulated. Crews who had faced Earth told their descendants not of battle, but of understanding. They described a planet that did not need weapons to command respect, a species that did not act in anger but with precise purpose. Fear and awe were mixed, but respect grew stronger with every telling. The commander, having returned to his homeworld, called his officers together. "You have seen what we faced," he said. "Strength is not in fleets. Strength is in patience, in control, and in knowing when to act. We were humbled today. Never forget it." The officers nodded, silently acknowledging the lesson. Across the galaxy, silence prevailed in a new way. The stars were the same. The planets were the same. But the knowledge of what humans could do, and why, had spread. Conversations that once imagined humans as weak were now filled with caution and humility. Legends grew in every corner of space, stories told in hushed voices about the calm planet that taught the galaxy a lesson without a single act of rage. The human envoy observed quietly. He knew the galaxy now watched Earth with new eyes. They would remember the fleet that had been stopped, the law that had been honored, and the calm strength that had reshaped expectations. Humanity had not sought glory. They had only acted to preserve life, to guide, and to protect. And the galaxy, at last, understood why humans were left alone. Years passed since the encounter with the alien fleet. Across the galaxy, the memory of what had happened continued to shape decisions, policies, and strategies. Species that once sought expansion into human space now paused at borders, sending messages and checking reports before taking any step. They had seen what humans could do without a single act of rage, and the lesson had settled deep into their cultures. On Earth, Life continued as it always had. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the full scale of their influence. Leaders watched carefully from secure chambers, but the public remained unaware of the fleets that had come and gone. Systems maintained balance quietly, monitoring threats and ensuring stability without drawing attention. Humanity's strength was no longer measured by fleets or weapons, but by patience, control, and understanding. The alien commander, now back on his homeworld, reflected often on the events. He had returned with his fleet intact, but with pride tempered and understanding sharpened. Meetings with his officers were quiet but meaningful. "We learned a lesson," he said. "Strength is not in attack. Strength is in restraint, in knowing the consequences of action, in controlling ourselves before the universe forces control upon us." His crew listened, and for the first time, they truly understood the weight of human restraint. Across the Galactic Council, elders discussed the implications of the encounter. They revisited the ancient law: never challenge humanity. For generations, it had been a warning, a cautionary tale. Now it was proven. The law was no longer theoretical, it was a lived truth. Histories were rewritten to include the events of the fleet. Archives preserved the lessons for future generations. The galaxy remembered. Some species attempted to test limits quietly. Scouts sent to human space found no traps, no hidden fleets, no preemptive strikes. They found only silence, observation, and careful patience. And that was more terrifying than any attack. The universe learned that humans did not need to fight to command respect. They simply existed with awareness, knowing when and how to act. The alien commander taught his people the same lesson. He spoke in academies, to new officers and diplomats. "Never underestimate calmness," he said. "Never mistake restraint for weakness. Our fleet saw what humans could do without firing a single weapon. That is power beyond measure. Remember it." Stories of the event became part of training for generations. Students learned not about fear, but about caution, respect, and humility. On Earth, humans continued to watch quietly. They did not interfere with every conflict. They did not dominate planets or empires. Instead, they acted when necessary, with precision and care. And when they acted to protect life, not to rule. That had always been their way, and now the galaxy had no choice but to recognize it. Over time, alliances shifted. Species that once fought each other paused to consider diplomacy. Military budgets were adjusted. Empires that had relied on intimidation now accounted for the silent presence of humans in their calculations. Trade routes were carefully measured. Borders were respected. Everywhere, the galaxy carried the memory of restraint over rage, of control over conquest. The commander of the alien fleet grew old, telling the story many times. Each telling carried the same message: humans are dangerous not because they seek war, but because they can end it. Not through force, but through careful understanding and patience. That lesson never faded. In quiet moments, he reflected on the human envoy's final words: "We do not fight to win. We fight to end the need for fighting." Those words had resonated across space, echoing in council halls, academies, and fleets. They had reshaped policies, shifted priorities, and taught the galaxy to respect a species that did not rule but could end rulers. On Earth, systems continued their quiet watch. Humans acted only when necessary, and when they did, their actions were precise and effective. The law remained above them, simple and unyielding: never challenge humanity. It was not written in anger or fear, but in understanding of consequences, respect for life, and awareness of what patience and control could achieve. As the alien commander observed the stars, he understood the galaxy's new truth. Humanity had not sought glory. They had not sought power. They had acted for balance, for preservation, and for the careful teaching of lessons without harm. And the galaxy, at last, understood why humanity had always been left alone. It was a lesson that would endure, written not in blood or fire, but in patience, control, and quiet certainty. Humanity's influence spread silently, shaping the universe without claiming dominion, and ensuring that the oldest law of the galaxy remained true for all time. Despite decades passing since the alien fleet's encounter with Earth, memories lingered like shadows across the galaxy. In distant sectors, older species whispered tales of the fleet that could not move, of engines silenced and weapons rendered useless without a single act of rage. The story was no longer legend, it was law, a reminder to every empire and every commander of the consequences of challenging humanity. On Earth, humans continued their quiet routines, unaware of the exact depth of their influence. Systems monitored threats silently, analyzing potential dangers and maintaining balance across solar systems. Humanity's strength was never about confrontation. It was about preparation, control, and understanding. When action was required, it was precise, clean, and unforgettable, leaving no room for doubt. The alien commander, older now, frequently reflected on the lessons learned. He gathered his officers, speaking to a new generation. What we faced was not mere power, he said. It was understanding beyond our comprehension. The humans do not conquer. They do not dominate. They only act to ensure balance and survival. That is the greatest strength a species can have. His officers listened, many in silent awe, realizing how little they had truly understood at the time. Across the Galactic Council, discussions continued regarding humanity's influence. The law, "Never challenge humanity," had been reaffirmed, its significance cemented in policy. The Council ensured all members, from the youngest diplomat to the oldest elder, comprehended its weight. Humanity had not needed to strike. They had not needed to show might. Their restraint had taught the galaxy more than centuries of war ever could. In far reaches, species debated cautiously. Some fleets that had once considered expansion were quietly reassigned, their commanders issuing orders that emphasized observation and caution. The galaxy had learned that force alone could never match patience and foresight. Humans did not need armies to change outcomes, they needed only the awareness to act when truly necessary. On Earth, leadership councils analyzed reports of potential interstellar threats. Decisions were made calmly, with attention to minimal disruption and maximal safety. Systems adjusted subtly, ensuring that no empire accidentally trespassed into zones under observation. Humans were aware, but never aggressive. Their law, both ancient and unyielding, guided them: protect life, maintain balance, and never seek dominion. The alien commander occasionally revisited the events of the past. He recalled the calm human voice, the controlled strike, and the fleet immobilized without damage. It had been terrifying yet enlightening. He realized that pride and aggression were weaknesses in the face of patience and intelligence. Humanity had demonstrated the ultimate mastery, power exercised without anger. Academies across the galaxy now included lessons from the encounter. Officers learned not only about tactics but about consequences. Strategy became entwined with ethics. The story of humanity was taught repeatedly. A species that could end a fleet without raising weapons, that could alter space with precision, and that acted with foresight instead of impulse. Every cadet understood that a challenge to humans was not merely unwise. It was dangerous in ways that could not be fully comprehended until experienced. Even within species that had not directly encountered humans, stories spread. Merchants, traders, and scholars carried accounts of the fleet that had been trapped, the calm instructions from Earth, and the gentle yet undeniable reshaping of events. Fear mixed with respect, and slowly, interstellar culture shifted. Peaceful negotiation became more common, and reckless ambition less frequent. Humanity's influence became subtle yet pervasive. The alien commander spoke to his fleet one last time. "We carry the memory of what we faced," he said. "We move forward not with vengeance or resentment, but with understanding. Let this guide our choices and our conduct. The humans have shown us a new way to wield strength, and it is a path we must respect." His officers nodded, internalizing the lesson as a foundational truth for generations. Human systems continued to watch silently. They did not celebrate, they did not intervene unnecessarily. They maintained a careful balance, ensuring the galaxy remained aware of their capacity without ever forcing it. Humans did not seek conflict, they sought order, understanding, and the preservation of life. In distant stars, the law had become legend and caution merged. Scholars wrote treatises on the restraint humans had displayed, diplomats referenced their strategies in negotiations, and commanders adjusted their approaches accordingly. The galaxy had learned that the presence of humanity alone was sufficient to guide decisions and maintain order. The alien commander, looking to the stars one evening, felt a mix of reverence and humility. Humanity's lesson had endured, embedding itself into the psyche of every species. They had not sought glory, and yet they had achieved something more enduring: universal respect and enduring caution. The shadows of past conflicts now carried wisdom rather than violence. And on Earth, humans remained quietly vigilant. Systems ran silently, monitoring, analyzing, and guiding. Leaders acted only when necessary, using precision and foresight. Their influence spread through example, not domination. The law remained true: never challenge humanity. Across the galaxy, every species knew its weight, and every commander understood its consequence. The legacy of restraint, intelligence, and careful action endured, shaping the universe without the need for a single act of wrath. The galaxy had grown quieter since humanity's first display of restraint and power. Generations of species had adjusted their behavior, recalibrating fleets, trade routes, and policies to account for the calm presence of Earth. Yet even in this silence, some wondered if the lesson had been fully understood. Some fleets continued to push boundaries, testing limits, always cautiously, but curiosity remained. The final test was inevitable. On Earth, leaders monitored these subtle movements. They observed silently, analyzing patterns, and preparing systems to respond if necessary. Yet they did not act out of pride or fear. Humanity's law remained clear: protect life, maintain balance, and never seek dominion. Patience was their shield, and awareness their weapon. Far in a distant system, a new fleet assembled. Unlike the previous fleet, this one was not arrogant, but careful, seeking to explore human space while testing what they had heard in whispers. The alien commander, older now, had returned to a council of his peers to recount the stories. They are patient, precise, and unlike any force we have ever faced, he warned. If you underestimate them, you will not survive the lesson. The fleet entered human-monitored space, sensors alert to every ripple, every signal. Yet nothing happened at first. Space was calm. The stars continued their silent paths. Then subtle anomalies appeared. Communications delayed slightly. Engines responded slower than expected. Nothing catastrophic, nothing violent. Just a demonstration of control. The alien commander watched from the flagship. They could stop us at any moment, he said quietly. And yet they do not. That is the power we must respect. His crew felt the tension in his voice. They had seen it before, but the scale now was greater. Not a single human ship was present, yet their influence was undeniable. Then came the proof. One by one, the alien ships found themselves constrained. Not trapped. Not destroyed. Merely unable to move beyond certain limits, guided by unseen hands that ensured life remained intact. Engines operated within narrow parameters. Weapons could charge but could not fire. Navigation systems responded only to safe coordinates. Each ship understood its boundaries without panic, yet with a deep, growing respect. The human envoy appeared on every communication channel simultaneously. His voice was calm, steady, and unyielding. You are free to exist, free to learn, but you must respect the law. Never challenge humanity. We do not seek your destruction, but we will act to end any threat without violence if required. The tone carried authority beyond any fleet or council's capacity to wield. The alien commander felt a weight settle over him. This was not merely an act of defense. It was an exercise of restraint so absolute, so precise, that it forced acknowledgement. He realized the truth fully. Humanity did not strike to win, to dominate, or to terrorize. They struck to prevent future conflicts, to end the need for fighting, and to ensure the galaxy understood the cost of disregard. Across distant systems, scholars and officers witnessed the demonstration. The lessons were repeated, studied, and internalized. Strategies changed. Policies shifted. Borders were respected, not because humans ruled them, but because every species knew the consequences of disrespecting their restraint. The fleet that had entered cautiously now withdrew, carrying not fear alone, but understanding. Reports detailed the subtle manipulations, the controlled limitations, and the absence of damage. Every commander recognized the sophistication of the act. Humanity's power was measured, precise, and, above all, restrained. Back on Earth, humans returned to their routines. Systems recalibrated silently, life continued, and the galaxy's balance remained intact. The law had proven itself once again, through demonstration, restraint, and the subtle but undeniable guidance of an intelligent species that understood the consequences of every action. The alien commander addressed his officers. "We have seen the final proof," he said. "Not a single life was lost, not a single fleet destroyed, and yet we carry this lesson with us. Strength is not in aggression. It is in restraint, control, awareness. Humanity has shown us how power without rage shapes the galaxy." His officers bowed their heads, recognizing the truth of every word. In councils, academies, and fleets, the story was repeated. Humanity's demonstration became a universal lesson. The greatest power is exercised without fury, the greatest influence is subtle, and the ultimate respect comes not from fear, but from understanding. The oldest law of the galaxy, never challenge humanity, had been proven, time and again, through experience and observation. On Earth, humans watched quietly as fleets returned home, empires adjusted, and the galaxy carried forward a memory more powerful than any weapon. The law endured, guiding interactions, shaping policies, and preserving life without domination or conquest. Humanity had acted once more to teach, to preserve, and to maintain balance, leaving the galaxy in awe of their restraint and wisdom. The alien commander finally understood fully. Humanity had never sought glory. They had never sought conquest. They acted to end the need for conflict. And the galaxy, at last, understood why humans were left alone. It was not fear that ensured their respect. It was the perfect combination of patience, control, and the quiet, unyielding certainty that their actions, when necessary, could shape the stars without a single act of rage.